This week, we unfortunately had some technical problems with audio, but don't worry, next week everything will be back on track. Hello, welcome to AI Ranch, where we discuss AI and business. Today with me is Elvīra Zaltāne, who is a prominent figure in Baltic technology sector, known for significant contributions to promoting women's involvement in tech, and serves as COO in Riga Tech Girls. She has been named as Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2020 Latvia. She founded startup Legally, which evolved from legal tech startup into successful legal services provider specializing in personal data protection with large clients such as Samsung, Renault, Printify, and others. And on top of that, she also have led successful COVID-19 response project by printing 3D medical face masks, which later then gained attention from NATO and merged with company which do this professionally. And finally, recent developments has been in AI, where she's been working with Deep Opinion with Scandinavian clients, and now with her new startup Affire, which helps to monitor software as a service subscriptions for companies. Welcome, Elvīra.
Hi.
Let's start by talking about the first startup Legally. Can you explain what you did there?
Yeah, so the story is very interesting, actually. So my traditional background in general, what I started off with is actually I have a legal background / diplomacy. So the path that I've chosen in my career is very untraditional for a lawyer and a diplomat. But eventually, at start when I started to work in law offices, I worked also in Riga City Council for a little while as a lawyer. I started to see a lot of inefficiencies. And, it was bugging me on day-to-day basis, like, why can't these templates be automated? Why are we doing all these repetitive tasks? And this was kind of one of the first Kickstarters why I started to think for myself that, if no one's going to do that, I might do something about it. And this is actually where I started this idea of Legally. And at first, I talked, of course, to my colleagues and everyone was kind of like, you cannot automate things in legal tech. There's no way. At that time in 2018, there was not a lot of conversations about legal tech in Latvia, especially. There were some happening in like Australia, US, and in UK. And I did my research. I was trying to understand if my hypothesis is right, that you can actually do that. And I realized there was some startups popping up there that were automating documents. And this is where we started. I got a team together and we started to automate templates. So this was the first iteration of the idea.
What kind of templates?
For standardized documents, like for example in Latvia it was, like registering a company type of documents. We went also to do some agreements, but at that time it was my first entrepreneurial experience, and I wasn't thinking maybe so globally at first, so it was very localized. So we were thinking in terms of local documents.
By the way, 2018, I saw these surveys about what jobs and professions can be automated before Gen AI came out and after, right? You see, there's huge difference. The time you're talking about, the reports like Goldman Sachs reports were telling that the legal tech, the medical, the programming, all of these jobs cannot be automated. And then after Gen AI, right, these are the first to automate. Did you already started using AI at that time or later?
Yeah, at that time, no. At that time, I'm not even sure. I wasn't, first of all, even knowledgeable enough, that to start using AI. And I'm not even sure if there were some options for anyone to use open source AI actually at that time. We did some rule-based surveys, basically. Basically, we built forms, just asked to fill them in, and then a document would come up. It was so many hours just like going through these agreements, trying to make them in a way that they could be standardized. We received a lot of backlash from lawyers that we are trying to do this. But we managed to spark some conversations, and law firms eventually 2 or 3 years later also started to look into that direction. Of course, now it's different. Now it would be much simpler, and that's another story. But along the way in Legally, I tried to also do, automated GDPR policy generation. I built a chatbot with no-code solutions, but I started to look into ChatGPT 3 at that time as well, because it was a new thing. It was embedded testing around that time when I did it. And when I was working at Deep Opinion, we got early access to it. So I started playing around, like copying all the information of the website, putting in it to GPT-3, building models, if there any could help be with building these website privacy policies. But that's years later, right? At that time, no AI, definitely. But yeah, now I know also lawyers that use GPT in their everyday basis. So it's I think a quite common thing.
Okay, but before we go to what's possible, I read that you at the end moved from initial these templates products to actually services. What was the kind of end service or product that companies bought from you?
Yeah, so we did make some templates, and we did make these forms which could be bought in our website. And we went actually to pre-acceleration program with Startup Wise Guys. It was like full-on startup mode that we went through. Eventually, we kind of hit the wall with the fact that we understood it's not scalable. Of course, talking to investors, it was not scalable. It was super tied to jurisdiction. It was not automated. There were a lot of things and reasons why we decided not to pursue that. But we had this data protection background in our team, so we just pivoted to just services, so let's make money out of it. And we just put out those forms, we sold them. There were some people that did buy that, especially we saw a lot of influx in registering a company. So people, a lot of times, they didn't want to pay to lawyers big fees to do that. And for us, they could come for 50 euros or something, fill out the form and get everything done.
Shouldn't it be a normal way how you register a company in government level, no?
Yeah, but now it is. Actually, a lot of things now also on the state level, they're only online, but at that time it wasn't as that. So
right.
So we were in that sense different in providing this user experience that maybe at that time wasn't really available anywhere else. But we just understood that there's no startup business there, but that doesn't mean we cannot do regular services. And what we did with our services also was a bit different, because at that time everyone was thinking of lawyers more conservatively, and our aim was to be more approachable, more towards the client with fixed fees, which was also quite kind of a new thing. It wasn't like an hourly fee. And so we started focusing on tech companies, startups, being more flexible, doing online consultations, not in person, only online, you
already got the online lawyer consultations.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
legal consultations.
And that kind of really put us on a path where we got more and more clients, and we just, worked.
Yeah, sounds reasonable. But then you said one of the main products was related to GDPR, right? The data protection law that we have in the EU. So when you worked with these companies, what was the hardest part for the companies regarding GDPR?
It's always one thing was to actually implement the documentation. Another thing was to implement that practically. So the practical part was usually a struggle, because a lot of times companies just wanted, I want to get the documentation done and that's it.
Checkbox.
That's a checkbox. And there were cases where we did that, of course, and we cannot pressure the client to do what he doesn't want to do. We are advisors, but there were cases where the authority then came, and then they came back to us. Okay, so we now need to do this practically as well, right? So that was the biggest challenge, to kind of implement those things practically and also maintain the compliance over the time, because, companies tend to do it as a checkbox for some reason, when they need it, and then forget about it. But that was a challenge.
So you say that, do you think still there are many companies that generate the GDPR policy but don't have anything in reality, right?
Probably, especially in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
But a really good thing that I saw, and it was last week, was State Inspectorate. They issued these, how it's called, guidelines. So they issued guidelines for startups, so which are the minimal requirements for GDPR compliance. So I think they also are kind of coming towards the startups and the smaller companies, but yeah, definitely smaller companies, I believe, are more on that end where they.
By the way, I have also heard that, did you see something like that in your practice? There is the regulation that you cannot, for example, sell private data to another company for some other reason rather than the real service that you're giving them. So, but I have heard that, I have not seen actually, but I have heard that some companies put some of these things inside these policies, and then when you do the checkbox, then it's even easier legally to sell your data to other company. Is that actually viable?
Yes and no. I mean, as usually we talk with clients, GDPR is not there to kind of limit your operations. It's there that you should be transparent with your client. So like, I mean, if you inform your client and he agrees to it, it's fine.
Like a checkbox. We will sell everything that we have.
And this is not legal advice, by the way.
Right.
But in general, you know, it's about transparency more so than just limiting the company to work at all. So that's a misconception also.
Right. So, but would you agree that these regulations actually make harder for companies to build AI in Europe?
Definitely. My opinion is that yes, it can. There's a reason why in US and China we see more AI companies, you know, booming a lot. There's a lot of, you know, the AI Act has come in. I'm not sure, actually. I haven't followed so much on, so what's the status of currently now? But there's a lot of talks about ethical AI, using, you know, what kind of data sources you use. You cannot just use everything and from everyone. So that is a bit hindering, I think. This regulatory burden is hindering a bit innovation, I do believe, in Europe. So this is, you know, why brain drain kind of happens, why companies are moving to US, for example.
You also moving your company to US?
In my case as well. It's not because of regulation, but partially a bit is also as well. And definitely this regulatory burden kind of, you know, hinders the growth in beginning stages. So
the data shows that, but at the same time, so I've been following a really great researcher, Yannick Kilcher from ETH Zurich. By the way, if listeners don't know, the ETH Zurich in Switzerland, it's the best place to learn AI in Europe. It's like on par with Stanford and so on. And he was making these videos about the AI news, about the latest developments, and then for a while he kind of disappeared, and then I found out that he's building a startup, and this startup is actually in legal tech, and they raised 10 million already, which is not bad for Europe, and it's called Deep Judge, and I was wondering, like, from your experience in legal and now with regulation and with AI, so how much of actually legal work on daily basis you think can be automated, and what tools are already there? What's your experience?
So starting off with what can be automated, I really do that AI can support lawyers, like in legal research, drafting some contracts, you know, going over some mistakes or something. Like those things, small, minor things, as a supportive factor, yes. Where it becomes a problem, in my opinion, is companies like trying to emulate judges, for example, right? And this is also a conversation big in Europe and also within the AI Act of like this, of this ethical use of AI, and where is the line where AI will start to make decisions for you as a person. And so this is one of the cases, you know, in judges and like issuing, I don't know, credits, but like mortgages, I don't know.
The credit scoring.
Yeah. In those kinds of things, or evaluating, are you guilty or not, right? In court, it's kind of going to a territory where without human involvement, there might be a lot of bias. So in that sense, that it's a supportive mechanism as a tool for legal research, contract drafting, anything like that, yes. But when it comes to the territory of actually deciding the fate of a case,
okay, but that's a judge. That is the other side, the prosecution judge. But what about the preparing the case, right, for the legal proceedings? Like, is it really possible right now with all of the tools maybe to automate the whole? Somebody comes in, I have a dispute about that. I have this situation. You put in the documents, you press button, and then comes out the strategy and all of the forms and everything. Is it possible, or?
Depends on the data sources. You know, the laws are all the time adapting. New recommendations are all the time given out. So it depends if the AI has the information about the newest regulation or recommendations issued. If yes, then okay, you can use it as a supportive source, and I know that lawyers are using it. Some of the lawyers that I know, but they are taking it very critically and looking at it and then double checking. It's a really good way to start, but you really need to double check if it's like the newest regulation issued.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem anymore. Since we have the RAG systems which are not trained, we can be up to date. So I believe these guys are doing something similar. So, but great to see your perspective on that. So let's move to other involvement. So Riga Tech Girls. So how many girls do you have? What age they are? How you operate? What is it?
In the team, we are 9 to 10, but in the community, a lot, a lot. I mean, in one program only, our biggest program, we have 7,000 during the year that goes through our program. So I would say it's a couple of thousand definitely yearly, and the community all the time grows. So it's more than 25,000 community members, I would say. So there's a lot of women, there's a lot of girls passionate about tech, passionate about startups, about learning digital skills. And yeah.
But how do you operate? Do you do just the seminars? So my experience with the Riga Tech Girls has been, I've been invited to several your programs. So basically I have met that people, women who want to learn tech and kind of change their job, or how you call it, change the career path, right? And it's not always easy. I think from my experience, I have seen that there's often misconception that this is easy job, high pay, I will do this quickly, and then find out that this is not as easy. So tell me about the process. What is the end goal, what you're trying to reach, and how you're doing it?
We have 3 verticals in Riga Tech Girls, and first one is, like you mentioned, we help with transitioning to IT career. So it's anything where we try to teach them with basic digital skills, teach about the possible professions you can undertake in IT. That is where probably you had the experience with, which is our biggest program, where we just, get anyone in, also not girls. It's also guys that are coming to our programs there and just learning about UI, UX, front-end, back-end development, anything, any profession you can undertake, and just learning these basic skills. And then we kind of set them on a path with these basic skills to, work on themselves and then go into this career if they wish to. That's one of the things we do. Second thing is we have a startup vertical. We have a pre-acceleration program for women. So we actually take
Do you give money?
No, but we introduced investors. Good. We have a network of investors that support us and that work with us. So we create them networking events, demo days. They have all the full experience of a kind of a pre-acceleration program. And we just, teach them everything from zero, how to start, how to create a pitch deck, what that is, what is product market fit, what is a business model. We just try to package that, create a pitch deck, give them to a demo day, and then set them on a path to either fundraise or work with their team. So that's the second thing we do. And the third thing is digital skills enhancement. So we have programs about that as well. So we have programs, for example, where it's digital skills for healthcare professionals, digital skills for teachers, and we just help them in their profession to enhance their digital skills to kind of elevate their profession as well. So it's 3 things we do, and there's a lot of programs, and it might seem confusing, but 3 kind of things we focus on.
Okay, I've heard that you have success in many directions, like the Google also awarded the project to you, and it seems that even now at this point, it's been for many years, right? So it's even like a second generation of women who finish the programs and now help others, right?
Yeah, so the Google grant, definitely, this time it's a bit different. So for this grant, it's more about AI skills. So
AI skills.
Yes, it's AI, and we have actually a program which is called AI Essentials. This is under the vertical of digital skills, and basically Google has these courses on AI essential skills, and what we do is we help to give women for free these courses. So this is what we do. And this year, actually, in autumn, so this was more in a closed community. The first batch we did more for our community. We had 800 who actually went through these AI Essentials courses. And now, this year, we're going to go more public for everyone. So sneak peek. But yeah, so it's...
Good. So this comes to the next thing. So in the age of AI, do you think it will be necessary at all to learn how to program and do things? Because I recently heard Jensen from the co-founder, the founder of NVIDIA, one of the most valuable companies in the world regarding they're building the GPUs, the video cards on which all the AI works nowadays. So he told that in the future, programming language will be just natural language. So from your experience so far, and you said you use no-code tools already, so is it actually necessary for them to learn all of this, or what do you think?
Depends on the profession and depends on the role that you do. If you're on the business side, you can fly without programming. I've used no-code tools like Wix to build websites. You can do that yourself. I've used no-code tools to build chatbots. I can do mock-ups. There's this tool called Lovable. It's a really good tool, I think, to kind of iterate with a product. One startup from Latvia really advised us to use it, and I think it's really great to work with the development team. But when the development starts, no, I don't think you really can go without the knowledge of programming. And, I see that in our team in Affire, for example, developers use some tools. They use AI as a supportive tool, but in general, the architecture of the product, the logic, debugging, everything, they have to do themselves anyway. So it's, as for now, I don't see that you can really replace that, but that's my opinion.
So I think if you talk to people 50 years ago or whatever, so they would say similar things about low-level programming and assembler and C, C++, and then and then it changed to object-oriented programming languages and to Python. Now even we can generate with natural language, and so but it's still right now at this moment, even at this day, there are a significant amount of the programmers that need to know this low level because they, for example, if they work in wireless router companies, right? We have a great wireless router company here in Baltics, Mikrotik, right? So they definitely cannot program routers with natural language. So, but I think it will kind of democratize and open up lots of opportunities for people to start building things quickly, right?
Yeah, I do trust that it's true. I've heard about it, and especially more simpler things, but when it becomes complex, I think not yet.
Yeah, this is similar about the AI agents, not yet, because everybody is saying the AI agents are already here. I would say that from my business experience, it's just step before AI agents, that's here, the AI agents is step ahead yet. So let's move then to Affire. So what it is and how it works.
So it is a software tool, and we help managed service providers to manage their clients' SaaS ecosystems. Basically, so just to maybe explain what is a managed service provider.
Yeah, because I've been in IT for over 20 years. This is first time I see MSP. I think you in the website even do you explain it what it is?
No, we don't. And this is an interesting thing because in Baltics and in this part of Europe, we don't have a market really for them yet. We have maybe on one hand you can count the MSPs that we have. But mostly the market is at US, UK, Scandinavia, and Benelux countries. And basically what an MSP is an outsourced IT service provider that is an IT administrator for your company. So basically it's subscription service based IT administrator in your company. And it's super common in US to have those, an accountant basically. And they just, keep track of your licenses, monitor if everything's fine, keep, your patch levels so that everything, I'm not very technical, but I know that there's something to do with patch levels. They deploy in company any tools if needed, company-wide. They just, monitor security, monitor licenses, computers, devices. And that's what they do on subscription basis. And one of the things now when SaaS adoption came, and especially after COVID, is they were monitoring installed software. They knew what was happening there and also with the devices. But once the user went into browser, they had no oversight of that. So basically now they have a hole where they cannot see what their clients' users are doing. They can see only one part. And the other part, basically that's what we're trying to solve, to give them this overview of their SaaS that they're using on browser.
So I was assuming that administrators' job is to make sure that everything is well oiled, there's no problems, everything works. But the optimization of the finances the risk optimization of the resources that you allocate for all of these SaaS software as a service products. This, at least in Europe, I think it's not the same person who do this, right? Is it how it works in.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
So the MSP, definitely, he's the one who's overseeing, and he can see, okay, you in the company, you're not using, I don't know, Slack enough in your company. And he can go as an advice to the company and say, so maybe you don't need to buy it, So he's like this trusted advisor. He will
But
just
he is
advise
not.
on these things.
Is he also advising to buy more services to automate things, or he's just?
He can advise, but ultimately the client will be the one that will be the decision maker. But he's definitely like more so not making the financial decisions. Definitely the one who's making those are in the company. And either it's a CFO or CTO who does that. And together, if you have an IT team, then it's CTO probably. If not, then it might be the CFO who makes the decisions. But in general, now also in Europe, NIS2 regulations coming up, and one of the key things that you kind of need to understand is what's going on in your company in terms of like IT assets. And if you cannot see this part, that's a kind of a problem, So this is one thing that we're kind of solving, this oversight. But yes, it's also like kind of optimization, security, and financial, optimization as well.
Okay, so so far you already probably have seen many tools and SaaS services that your clients use, especially you say right now this is early stage, but still, if you want to get clients, you need to show these use cases, right? So, what are some of the most expensive subscription services companies use, and they even maybe don't realize that they have it?
Yeah, if we're talking about expensive, I mean, one of the things with our first pilot customers, they didn't realize how much they're spending on Microsoft licenses. Companies tend to use a lot of Microsoft products, and then they don't know for which they're paying, for which not. And I would say for them, the overspend came from a place where they didn't realize that they still had emails of people that have left the company. They didn't have access to those emails. They were still paying for those emails. So they could identify those emails now. So that was one of the things. So I would say like Microsoft definitely is on the top, but that's from now use cases. And I cannot measure against, if it would be an enterprise company as our client, probably they use SAP or something like that, then it would be on the top. But we see that there's a lot.
Microsoft is expensive.
I would say, that's something that you cannot follow as long, but in general, if we're talking about this, shadow IT as a term, and especially shadow SaaS is a thing. You don't know what you actually use in the company, and that's actually what we see a lot. We tested a product on ourselves. So we have this plugin in our browsers that's monitoring what we're doing, so for testing purposes. And when we started using it, we actually discovered that there's so many things we don't know we actually have. And this is like this cybersecurity issue for companies. You might have an employee that starts to use ChatGPT, uploads sensitive information about your company there. But if it's free, you might not know in the company that he's doing that. And if a breach happens, no one knew that there was such a ChatGPT for your employee that's uploading this information. So this is something that we're kind of also trying to identify. But yeah, getting back to what's expensive.
So I think it's no surprise that Microsoft is expensive. They right now I've seen many cases where companies now seriously consider other options to Microsoft Copilot, because Microsoft Copilot licenses by user, right? But some companies basically it's okay to have just some company-wide private GPT where they might pay for use, it's not for the users. And this I think, like if you're a large company, there's like even 100x difference on how much you would spend there. So, but what about some kind of funny, useless examples? Do you have something where somebody is paying? Like I've heard that if there is services that are like €1 or €3 or USD per month, and nobody even notices, and it goes on for years.
Well, first of all, we don't see actually.
Oh.
we cannot take a look at really what our like MSP's clients are doing. So that would be a bit of a security breach on our side. But again, maybe getting back to ourselves is that we see that a lot of things that you thought you were when you are asked a question, what SaaS are you using? You usually think, I don't know, maybe like 10, and you name the most common ones. But in general, when you would get the browser, then you see it's actually like 200, and there are so many silly ones that you would never thought that actually are being used. But different kinds of things people are buying and, trying out for one time, just logging in, creating free trials, accounts here and there. And And those are I guess the most silly ones. Let's take an example, some kind of PDF converter. You might be a lawyer in your office and you just decide that you need your converter file. You don't know how. You Google it in, create a free account, do it, upload your agreement, sensitive info. You might forget about it, but it's still there. So the information is there. So these kinds of maybe cases I can mention.
Okay. So this company, this service also seems promising, but you're not starting from Baltics, from the Eastern Europe, right? You're immediately starting from US. Well, why is that?
Yeah. At first, we started here because we started in general the product as a SaaS management product for mid-sized companies. That was our first hypothesis. And our first client also was from language translation industry. It was an agency. And we had the hypothesis that marketing agencies, these types of agencies, they probably use a lot of SaaS, so they might need to, get track of it to not overspend. And we were wrong. Eventually, we came, or many discussions, many researches, we came to a pivot and we found this managed service provider industry where they need this to monitor their clients. And, it came logically for us because there's no market here. So we just had to start from the first day. Our co-founder is also American-based, so that plays a lot of role. He's in the MSP industry for 30 years. He's been vice president of multi-billion-dollar companies in that industry. So it just makes sense for us to start there. Why not? And there's no option.
You will be selling not to the corporations, but to these MSPs, right?
Yes, to MSPs.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And so I've been recently in America as well, and it was my experience that even we went with some very successful startups as well in Europe, and it was kind of a sobering experience where we met investors and they were just telling like great results in Europe, show me the same in America, then we'll talk, right? So, and this was kind of a little bit disappointing that we never thought that maybe they always say that you can try things here in Europe, in Eastern Europe, in Baltics, and then scale outside, but actually it seems even other way around, right? You have experienced something similar?
Yes, when we first started off, definitely we did receive this feedback because, of course, we started here. So we have several, of course, pilots here. We have some partnerships here, and they're not very looking at that. They're only looking at those that we're doing in US. So if you want to raise in US, if you want to get partnerships, investors in US, they are interested if you have traction there. So this is why also we are super focusing on that. So we have our early adopters in line waiting for the first release, which we are going to actually do on 27th of March in Las Vegas. We have an announcement there in a conference.
Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Some event there, yeah?
We have a keynote speech. Our co-founder is giving a keynote speech there. It's an MSP summit, and he's going to give a keynote speech on SaaS monitoring.
MSP summit. I have heard in America they have niche conferences
They're big. They're very big. We actually were so surprised that this industry is so massive. Wow. My co-founder Yanis, he went to Spain to an MSP conference.
Spain. So it's in Europe as well.
It's also in Europe. In Benelux countries, it's super common.
Countries, right.
Another one is coming up now in Germany, and they spend 30 to 60 million just for one conference.
Why is the Eastern Europe doesn't have this at all?
I think we're just behind. There are some tendencies, and now one MSP that we're talking here in Baltics, which is an Estonian MSP, but one of the largest here, they are transitioning to this MSP model. So before they became MSP, so what kind of, I would say, characterizes an MSP is the subscription model. Before they were just doing this, there was this IT guy who just came and fixed whatever you have broken, this IT guy that you have in your company. And we have several companies currently functioning here as that as well, but we see that over time probably they will adapt and also become as MSPs because the trend in the world is going towards that. So
is it just the quality? Is it if you have this position in your organization structure, or is it make also sense financially? Can you do this part of administration cheaper if you have this partner, or what is the financials there?
Yes and no. It's hard. I don't know the definitive answer, but from my experience, what I've seen, yes, because what MSPs also do is try to also get you compliant to all these regulations. So yes, it could. I think it could really be at some point when you're at a certain level of a company, and what we see is 100 employees and more, it financially makes sense to get an MSP rather than a whole IT team, whole legal team, whole compliance team for this kind of, especially if you're a tech product or tech company, to keep these things
So complicated. At least from me, hearing this, one of the first time is, it seems that this MSP service is overlapping so many areas. Like you say now that they are responsible for these, I guess, GDPR documentations as well.
Not documentation, but for like this practical aspect, like security and implementation.
So implementation of GDPR, the monitoring of SaaS services, configuring the servers and machines, right? Then what else? Like how it's actually different, or is
They
it
can do IT support, network
IT
management,
support even.
Yeah.
So, but how it's even different from DevOps? There is this DevOps role, also not for the startups, but for larger organizations where they have kind of like glorified IT administrator with abilities to. So he's sitting and making sure that all of the testing processes, deployment process, everything goes kind of semi-automatically. It seems also overlapping with this, right? Do they do DevOps as well?
I haven't heard about DevOps if they do, but that's why they work with mid-sized companies. So that's the key. So it's companies that don't have these like DevOps teams. Like if there would be a construction company or medical company, you probably wouldn't hire a DevOps, so you would hire an
Yeah,
MSP.
this is, I think, never heard DevOps being used in non-IT scenarios.
Yeah, but still, in the medical industry, you still need to be. Your data needs to be protected. There are a lot of security issues. Your servers, computers, everything needs to be fine, and that's what they're kind of doing for them. They're like serving as this outsourced IT guy for subscription services, like your accountant, to keep everything in check and secure. So that's how they function, I mean, hopefully the trend will also come here. We see that it's starting to also emerge here, but it might be some years still.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. So, but your Affire company, right? You have Affire.ai. So,
Yes.
where is the AI?
Funny story about the domain, actually. We wanted to buy .com, we wanted to buy .io, but it cost $10K and we couldn't. So the only one was available was AI. We knew that AI probably would be in our product, so we bought it. But there were discussions about this as well. But now we are, AI-infused SaaS monitoring for managed service providers. And, we're not building our own LLMs, although it's actually in the roadmap later on. Once we have all the data, we want to train something on our data in our product. But for now, it's super simple. So when we do SaaS discovery, when you have this browser plugin, it kind of discovers all the things that you're using. What AI does for us is categorizes, gets all the information about what type of SaaS it is, what's the risk level, security risk level, and categorizes those things, like gives descriptions, icons, everything. So it kind of, helps us to identify these SaaSes that we might not know. Because, we cannot list manually all the SaaS in the world. So this is one part where the AI is. The next part is insights. So we also give insights and recommendations based on the data that we have. So we can actually, give them personalized recommendations. You have two CRMs in your company. So
is it actually like that ever happens? CRMs?
It can happen, especially if you're like an international organization. It can happen easily. In one country, they buy Pipedrive. In one country, they buy HubSpot. And it might not be the best deal then, so why shouldn't it be just one? And there are those cases. So these recommendation security things, it's,
Is it more than just monitoring the URLs you're using, or how are you practically doing it? How can I imagine like be quite difficult to just automatically detect that I'm using some kind of paid service if you don't know this service, right?
Yes, and we are doing it by URLs. Basically, we're monitoring that, but on technical details, you would have to ask our CTO. I would not want to go like super detailed. I will not be able to answer in that sense, but yeah.
Okay. But sounds really nice way to do a business because, like from my experience so far or years building unique AI products, at some point you just understand like is there a market need, some niche that people don't realize. That's a great place to work, and it seems that you have found something like that.
We hope so.
Yeah.
We hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So all the luck to you in the USA with this new endeavor, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining our episode of AI Ranch. As a gratitude for our work, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and see you in the next one.